Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Williams, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. You know, I woke up this morning and said to myself, what am I going to talk about today? Because yesterday I had a topic and then I decided, no, I didn't want to do that topic. So I decided, okay, we are going to have multiple topics. Folks, if you're just joining us, please remember the first thing that I always ask you to do is to please go ahead and share this on your page, share this on your wall, share this on your Twitter, share this everywhere, because these are things that we want everybody else to hear. Why? Because you're not going to really hear it in this context on the mainstream media. They won't tell you this because they are owned by other folks. Not that they're bad or anything like that, but they must advertise, and the advertisement that they do must come from whom? Those folks who pay them. And who are those folks who pay them? Some of the folks themselves who are doing the things that they shouldn't. Remember Amazon that we talked about yesterday. Hello, Morgan, Kathleen Morgan. Hello, Michael Rutnan. Welcome aboard, my dear brothers and sisters. Welcome aboard the train. Welcome aboard the train of what I'm going to call the train of liberating us from false information, the train of giving us the thought process that we work on together to move forward. Folks, this is a show I ask you to share, and remember, it's also a call-in show. And since we're going to be covering several topics, if you want to insert one yourself, please give us a call at 646-716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812. You know what? I would actually love to hear from you. In fact, I'd like to give you the microphone so that you can tell our folks stuff that they may need to hear. So give us a call. Again, that number is 646-716-5812. I have a question for my Republican and conservative brothers and sisters who actually use the messaging that Trump used, the messaging that other folks use to determine how they vote. I have two questions for you. As soon as the election was over, did you hear the word caravan? Did you hear the word tax cut for the middle class and the poor? No, you did not. And why didn't you? Because that was just a ruse to get you to vote. That was just a ruse to get you to vote. And that was one of those that was one that was simply a blatant lie. And in the process of lying to you, my question to you, welcome aboard. I think I just saw Bruce Ballard and Shani, welcome aboard. But anyhow, that was just a lie. In other words, they told you to get your vote, to get you to go out and vote. Oh, vote for us because we're coming with a 10% tax cut. We're coming with and we're sending the military. Let me tell you, you're not getting the tax cut, but you did get a bill to fool you. In other words, we are going to pay a whole lot of people to misinform you. That's what we did. How did we do that? We lied to you by talking about the caravan that was coming to invade us. And after the caravan, and to stop that caravan from invading us, we lined up 5,000 troops with the expectation of growing it to 15,000 troops that were not needed at all, but we fired them up, and millions of dollars were spent to mobilize folks that did not need to be mobilized. And since that bill goes to the taxpayer, it is clear to see that what the president did was used your money to lie to you to get your vote. How do you feel? Do you feel that should be rewarded? You notice even Fox News, the national channel, not the national channel, but the official channel of the Trump administration, just like, how they do it in the communist countries, right? The official channel of the Trump administration. Where is all the word about where is all this concern about the caravan? You remember you saw big crowds walking down the Pan American Highway, coming from Guatemala into Mexico, right? And as they got into these places, these big caravans are coming with, 5,000 people, 7,000 people. I mean, these are things that happen all the time, right? People all they did it in numbers this time. Again, there's strength in numbers, right? But these things happen all the time. The president used it, and he then monetized it, and then he weaponized it when he then used the military. I mean, he's a commander-in-chief. So he says move, they say where to. And he said move to the border. And they moved. And it cost us millions. How do you feel? That could have been monies in somebody's, that could have been money just to buy food for the poor. That could have been monies to help somebody in college. But no, we did it as a stunt. Because the president could lie to you, and he knew he would get away with it. Then he tells you about a tax cut that we are not going to give the middle class, because the Republican mantra is never to rescind tax cuts to the wealthy. You have to bring a Democratic Congress in to do that, but we can't afford it. We cannot afford to just go ahead and say, we're going to give you a tax cut. And there's a reason why. And that is because, we run the risk of further moving into crash territory, and we're going to talk about that as well. So, folks, hang in there. We have a whole lot to talk about, and I'm going to go ahead and get started with the show. We don't have a blog of the week because I intend to do a whole lot of talking. I wish to hear from you all. I wish some of you would call in 646-716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812. Topic is many topics today. This is the title. Many topics today. Market crash, blue wave, Hillary run, new Dem Blood, meaning new Democratic blood, and more. Subtitle. I do not have one topic today, but many of interests. It is important that we talk, or that we walk and chew gum at the same time. Market crash. There is much happening around the country. So, there's so much happening around the country. If one simply watches the mainstream media, they seem to concentrate on one or two issues every day. There's something of the day, right? So what Trump normally does is he lost an election, so he did something silly. And instead of continuously talking about the election and where things were, etc., the media ran to talk about the snub that he gave in France and all these other issues that are there to dilute or distract from what's really happening in the country. Notice what I said, dilute or distract, right? If we're talking a whole lot about some things that don't matter, it means we're doing it at the expense of things that actually matter, which is what we continuously do. Folks, if you're just joining us, I ask you to please share the program. Share it on Twitter, Facebook, your Facebook page, your Facebook wall, your Tumblr, your Snapchat, and all these other places. Anyhow, continuing. And that is how Donald Trump and the Republicans are able to do so much harm to the country. When they passed the laws that said, hey, the big plutocracy that owns the mines, when they said, okay, you can go ahead and throw that ash into the streams and on the hillside and whatever. That meant mercury in your water. That meant arsenic and all these other heavy metals that's going to be in your water, in your streams, in your groundwater, that's going to eventually get there. But, we're also talking about Trump's new tweet. And since somehow his new tweets to many are much sexier than something that's going to kill you, the media concentrates on the tweet. If you notice, a lot of the blogs that I write, not only for egbertowillies.com, but for dailycoast.com, one of the things that I didn't cover a whole lot was Russia. One of the things I didn't cover a lot, I didn't cover a whole lot of things that did very little to the average American citizen, right? Because none of these things. Russia is a legal thing, it's a criminal thing that should take its own course. But while we're discussing Russia and all of that, shouldn't we be discussing about how to make lives better for people by passing policies that are going to help them because they're suffering so much, or the suffering is so much right now? You know, Americans are very good at suffering in how? Silence. I live in a fairly nice community here, and I find it ironic the amount of suffering there is in all these communities, and you don't know it until you get a little bit under the hood and you start talking to people, and you see where they are, you see where their finances are, you see where they're, you know, where the angst that they're going through on many issues, the job insecurity, and all of these issues. But they all do it in silence unless you have a conversation where they are free and they feel comfortable to tell you certain things. You think everything is okay, and Trump bets on that. He bets that when he says the economy is doing great, in as much as it's not doing great for most, that no one wants to come out and say, what is he talking about? It's not great for me. So we suffer in silence because we think we may be the only one that's going through that pain. And unless we, as progressives, the ones who tell the truth, open the door for people to open themselves up, even some of the folks that we think are not on our sides, those folks that are on the red side, those folks that think they are conservatives, those folks that believe that the conservative mantra, the conservative policies is what's going to make life better for them. A lot of it is just fear. A lot of it is we don't quite know, but you know what? They tell me that this is better for me, and these are the people I trust, which means what you have to do is earn the trust of others. Folks, people are suffering. People are suffering in silence. That is how we do it in this country. And when you suffer in silence, the pain doesn't override your political views to turn them into action. We started to see that this time, though. We started to see people start to activate based on knowing that we're all in the same boat together, and the outcome of the election says much about that. We have a lot more to do. We have a lot more work to do, but you know what? It's going to happen because persistency, folks, respect persistency, and that is what we are going to be, persistent. All right, the media is unable to cover many subjects concurrently as they put the same nonsense on a reel, and I spelled real wrong, but on a reel. More importantly, they concentrate on subjects that have little to do with the poor and the middle class, Americans' daily lives. I mean, so we may be talking a whole lot about Russia. We may be talking a whole lot about a few stock regulations that to determine how somebody's going to make some money, not make some money, or otherwise. Welcome aboard, Jason Garrett. Welcome aboard. So none of those things really matter to a lot of people. But when you live in a bubble, which many do live in a bubble, that is kind of what happens. Folks, this is a call-in show as well. If you want to change the subject or add to the subject of what we're talking to, please feel free to give us a call at 646-716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812. We don't do the cursing thing here. We don't do the insulting thing here. We don't try to make one look small here. We believe in growing every single person who interacts with us. We believe in growing every single person that forms a part of our family. I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, left, right, conservative, right wing, left wing. If you're here on this show, if you're here listening, we may disagree, but we're still family folk. So again, telephone number 646-716-5812. I wish more people would call when we're live. I wish more people would see it live as opposed to all those that we got on podcast and vlogcast. So folks, give us a call, 646-716-5812. Okay, today I want to cover many subjects. Please feel free to call in as well and provide a topic that you think is lacking. I intend to cover, are the market and our economy on the verge of crashing, of collapse? Are Democrats prepared for the narrative? Should Democrats now move to elect new leaders, or should they stick to the same old ones? Should Hillary Clinton run for president yet again? Something that's been floated out there quite already. Almost definitively, one of her past proteges says that she is going to run again. So was it a real blue wave? Was it? What else do you want to talk about? So that's where we're at today. So anyway, I want to talk about the crash. While I was in Starbucks kind of thinking about the things that I'm going to talk about, a friend of mine out there who is a day trader, he trades, there are times he may hold on to a stock for a few minutes and dump it and do that sort of stuff. So I've been talking to this guy for a long time, and I've said, you know what? There has to be a crash coming. Not only a stock market crash, though that is usually the precursor, but a crash in the economy. And that the other thing that I've been saying for quite a while is that this economy is not a real economy. It's an economy based on smoke and mirrors, right? It's an economy high on capital, high on finance, but very low on production, very low on wages, very low on things that are necessary to keep an economy going. We don't have that kind of an economy at all. So there's nothing there to sustain this economy. Anybody who has taken at least Economics 101 has to ask the question, why is this economy doing well when the buying power of Americans are really stagnant and a lot of people losing their jobs and non-existent? We have to start asking ourselves those kinds of questions. Why is there not a crash? Now, a few days ago, I spoke to Tom Hartman. We were in Fund Drive at KPFT, and I interviewed Tom Hartman live. And Tom Hartman a while back wrote a book, I think it was called The Crash of 2016. And in the crash of 2016, he anticipated that the whole market system and the banking system would collapse again, because the same things that they were doing pre-2008 is the same things that they're doing again. Both derivatives and the oversupply money and all that kind of stuff, deficit spending, quantitative easing, which has been on curve down right now, and a lot of these issues were hitting the economy. So I always thought that Tom Hartman said in his book that it was pretty much time for that crash to occur. But he said when I interviewed him on KPFT a couple weeks ago, he said, "But when you write books, you don't name the book. They name the books for you." For which I said, and I didn't tell him this, but when I write a book, I believe solely at this point in time in self-publishing. I don't believe anybody should go to a publisher and fill out manuscript, get approval, and I do not, in a true free enterprise system, I do not believe in any of that. I believe every single person who wants to write a book should sit down, do their research, and write their book and self-publish it. And it's not at all difficult to do. I think every single person who has something to say, every single person who wants to get that word out, you have the wherewithal to write a book, because it is your body of knowledge that you want to share with others. You should be doing that yourself. So I don't believe in going to a person who's going to type. There was a time when you had to typeset books and all of that. Today, you just word process a darn book, put it in a format that a publisher, that the person who's going to manufacture the books, if you're going to do a hard copy, needs, or the format that the person who's going to sell your book online needs, right? And of course, you can also sell your own online books in PDF format if you so desire. I remember speaking to one of the publishers of the biggest liberal websites, and he told me, "Egberto, I'm never going to write a book again, and the reason I'm not going to write a book is by the time I am done paying all the I'm done paying the people who are manufacturing the book and the people who want their cut for advertising and this and that, I am not left with much. And the book is high price. The book is 3 times the cost, the price that I sell my book for. And he said, I can't, I'm done with writing books. I'm like, no, you don't be done with writing books. You write them yourself. And when you're done writing it, you publish them yourself. That's what I did with this good old baby here. As I see it, class warfare, the only resort to right-wing doom. And the reason why is I'm a real free enterpriser. I believe in all of us doing whatever we can on our own, if we can. And where we need help, ask for help. And there are a lot of folks out there that are willing to provide that help. But anyhow, so Tom Hartman wrote the book Crash of 2016. And you know when you have the crash of 2016 and 2016 comes along and it elects Donald Trump and 2017 comes along and the economy continues to rocket at the same rate it was rocketing when President Obama left office, people start to say, well, what's going on? I thought the economy was supposed to crash in 2016. Well, here's the deal. We don't know when the economy is going to crash because, once you have blinders on, it can stay as long as possible. It does not have to crash immediately. It does not have to crash quickly. None of that is necessary. But all the mechanics are there. All the data is there to say this cannot last. Let me give you some examples right now. Under Donald Trump has raised the deficit more than any other president in these kinds of times. It is 17% higher than it was last year. And he gives a tax cut, so he's talking about bringing in much less revenue into our coffers, which means we're going to deficit spend. But here's the other kicker. Interest rates has started to go up. And if interest rates are going up, there's this part of our budget called that services or debt. That means that we pay the interest on our debt. That part of the budget is higher than it's extremely hard. It's hundreds of billions of dollars that we just take. In other words, you pay your taxes and hundreds of billions of dollars have to go out, not to pay for services, not to pay for health care, not to pay for Social Security, not to pay for any of that. And this is what a lot of Americans do not understand. We have something called service on the debt, which is the amount of money that you have to pay in interest, not only for the deficit that you've racked up this year, but for all the deficits that were racked up years and years and years ago. And that number is astronomical. That number is huge, several $100 billion. When it goes into the coffers, it immediately goes out and pays the rich folk who owns the debt. In other words, they give us money, we give them an IOU, and every month we give them a snippet, we give them some money. Right, and taxes go to the treasury. The treasury takes your money and gives them for that debt. We have to understand that that's what's going on, and that number continues to grow. And when the interest rates go up by a percentage or whatever, that is going to explode. That part of our budget, without anything changing, just the mere fact that the interest rates has gone up, that is going to explode any further borrowing that we have. Now, there's some borrowing. Again, the old borrowing is at whatever rates that borrowing was at. But the new borrowing will be at the new rate that the new market rates. So that means less money coming in to our coffers for things that we have to do, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, etc. But then we also gave that big tax cut. And that big tax cut has to be, we don't have to say it has to be paid for. What it means is somebody else has a whole lot more money that should have been ours that they're going to loan us now. They're going to loan us the tax break we gave them and charge us interest on that tax break we gave them. Isn't that not a great way to make money? So what I tried to tell folks early on, when all these taxes were coming, all these tax cuts were coming, is those people are going to get paid several times. They get paid to bring their money back into the country from the small amount of interest, small amount of taxes they're going to pay to bring the money back in. They get paid because most of that money, 40-something% of that money was used to buy back stocks, which if you buy back stocks in these companies, the amount that actually accumulates, right? appreciates. You buy back your stock, the price of that stock goes up because there are less shares outstanding. And guess what that means? That is income, right? They like to classify it as capital income versus wage income. And somehow capital income made from capital, is taxed at a lower rate than wage income. So the guy sitting on his butt by his pool watching his stock portfolio pays less in taxes on average than the guy who is out there busting their butt. Okay? That's how our system works. And those are the things that most Americans don't know. The media is not going to be out there informing you like there is another way. The reason things are this way is that we need folks to understand this, so that when Republicans come out there and telling you, when we give a tax break, it creates jobs, we have to be able to refute that immediately. No, when you give tax breaks, it does not create any jobs, because we have to remember one thing. Nobody creates jobs unless there's a demand, and that demand, that delta demand, that marginal demand is what's used to pay for that job that entrepreneur is going to create. If there's no marginal job gains, if nobody's going to get an extra job, if nobody's going to have their wages increased, I don't care if you give $1 million in tax breaks to every single millionaire. He is not going to create a new job, because he's not going to change a millionaire doesn't change his spending when he gets extra money, because he has all the money that he needs already. So extra money is just money to put away. So it creates no job. However, if you give the job to the poor person, to middle class person, and they go out and they buy extra stuff, the manufacturers start to see that extra stuff is leaving the shelf and has to be replenished, and they have to make more extra stuff after the people buy that extra stuff. After they buy that extra stuff, then they start hiring. When they start hiring, there are more people with jobs, which are making money again to buy even more extra stuff, and then we get the ripple effect. Here's a fact that everybody has to understand. And this is, I don't want to be partisan specifically here, but it has to be partisan here. The economy does better under Democratic policies than under Republican policies. A policy of austerity never produces what a policy of liberalism does. Liberal flows. Let's explain. If you take a look at all the administrations, the Democratic administrations have always done better economically. Right-wingers, you don't even have a discussion. You can't even argue that point. The numbers are absolute. If you believe in arithmetic, that's a fact. The stock market does better. All these different areas do better. Even under Obama, that came into a destructive recession. Look it up. The fact of the matter is to do better. And the reason why is Democrats, in as much as you have a whole lot of establishment Democrats that should be considered nothing more than Republican light, still, the fact that they make sure that more money or some money gets into the hands of people who need it means that those people who need it are going to spend it. And when they spend it, the builders, the candlestick maker, the bread maker, the grocery store, all of these people have more demand. And when they have more demand, they hire more. And when they hire more, they create yet more demand. Same thing goes with higher wages. People like to talk about, higher wages are going to kill jobs. Ridiculous. Economics 101. They want you to forget arithmetic. If I pay somebody more on the individual basis, on the individual company basis, my company will have more expenses, true. But a marginal increase in the price of my product more than covers that increase. But that person getting more money, the amount of money that he can go out there and spend increases, and it's the economy that gets better as the flow of money increases. It means more people are making more money. These are simple facts that that the right tries to make you forget, that the right tries to distract you from, And they try to do that because absent that, you will demand demand higher wages, demand that these tax cuts are not done over and over and over again. It is so important. It is so important that we understand these concepts. I wish more of the mainstream media would dedicate its time, because they have, of course, a much bigger audience. We're dependent on you sharing these programs so that people understand what's going on. Because if they understood what's going on, they would definitely, not all, some folks are just indoctrinated, but definitely they would vote their interest, because there are many people out there that really believe what the Cato Institute and the Heritage Foundation's telling them. They really believe the words out of those guys who generally try to tailor reality to an ideology. They try to tailor reality to an ideology as opposed to just letting reality reign. So it is important that we understand those concepts. Very, very important about the economy. So is the economy and the stock market going to crash? Under that scenario, the answer is yes. Do I know when? No. But there's one thing I know: we're coming to a head and we're in some dangerous times. And here is the questions that I've continuously asked. And the reason I've continuously asked this, because it's going to be a danger to the 2020 election. We don't know when the crash is coming. We just know that we're in an unsustainable path right now. With the amount of debt that we have, with the amount of debt that we're continuing to accumulate, we'd have to go ahead and cut services, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, TANF, which is the food stamps. All of that would have to cut, right? If we want to reduce the amount of money the government is spending. There's nowhere else to get it, and of course defense. But here's the kicker. Everywhere that you reduce it, where it affects the average American citizen, from the lower middle class to the poor, it's going to have a detrimental economic effect. Here's what I'm talking about. Okay, the Republicans are going to come back and say, okay, since we have this big deficit created by them, by giving a tax cut that was not paid for, by giving a tax cut that we could not afford, by giving a tax cut where we should have had a tax increase on the wealthy, every single dollar that they don't take back from the rich is going to be a dollar not spent in the economy. And when that dollar is not spent in the economy, we continuously slide back. So good. We know if Republicans hold on to the presidency, and they hold on to the Senate, and even win back the House, we know that's where we're going. They're going to cut all these programs. What they won't tell you is the economy will continue to fail. And when the economy starts failing, it will be because less money was placed into the hands of the people who need it the most, who would have spent it. And that is going to cause a spiral within the economy. What I'm doing, friends, is forward looking. I'm hoping that Democrats start talking these issues. I want Democrats to start, and progressives to start saying, if you cut any of the social programs, you will hurt the economy. If you cut any of these particular issues, you will hurt the economy. If you do not increase the taxes on the wealthy, you will hurt the economy. Redistribution is a word that many don't like to hear. But capitalism, as we practice it, has an aberration, is an aberration. It has a problem in that it's by design, money moves upward. It is extractive. It's not collaborative. It's not cooperative. It is extractive. If you talk about watching the stock market grow by, last year it grew by 21%. If you look at other parts of the economy, let's say it grew by 4%, 3.something%. But if the average person wages only went up by 1.2%, and they only grew by, and their wealth hasn't grown at all, in fact, may have gone down. That means that those folks, the very minute amount of people who are growing at 7%, 8% per year, and the whole economy is growing at 3% per year, they are extractive. It means your wealth and your money is being transferred to them. We all are in one economy. If some people's economy is growing faster than somebody else's, the only place from getting that extra growth is from you. And that is what happens. When they brought that money back in and they gave them a tax break and we deficit spend, it doesn't look like it's coming from you, right? Because it's deficit spending, but it's your money. And how is it your money? Well, we deficit spend to continue paying Social Security. But guess what else we have to pay? We also have to pay the interest from borrowing it from those people who we gave the tax breaks to. So we are paying for the tax break. That's further income out of our pockets. And in doing so as well, we're hurting the economy. Because think about this. If instead of paying that extra money to them, we went and bought another loaf of bread, the economy would be better. When we pay them that money doesn't go back into the economy. Don't believe the lie. Do not believe the lie. And that's why the Amazon giveaway is so disappointing, especially in a progressive state. How dare them give $1.8 billion to Amazon? How dare they do that? That is your money. Nobody asked you if you wanted to give a wealthy trillion-dollar company a tax break to come into your neighborhood, and by bringing those people into, and by the way, what's interesting, don't sit down and think Amazon is going to hire all those unemployed people in New York or in Virginia or in Tennessee. Many times they bring their own people in as well. But it's not only that. As they bring in these supposedly higher wage jobs, what do you think they're going to do to the real estate in the area? It's going to go up. Why? We have no controls, right? Those real estate areas are going to go up. So what happens then? The owners of real estate, again, make a killing. The wealthy folk make a killing. And where are they making a killing from? When the price of real estate goes up, it is average middle class and poor person that has to pay that increased rent. And that increased rent isn't an increase because that building owner had to pay a higher taxes or had to pay higher cleaning fees or had to pay higher maintenance fees. That increase in rent has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with the value of the property increased. And that imaginary increase in value simply came because Amazon came into town, brought some demand, paid people a higher wage than the local communities. And by the way, that higher wage is not really higher because of Amazon. It's because, of course, given they get that tax break, that's a subsidy. We have to understand how all of this works, people. We have to understand how it works. We have to understand how the corporations using the politicians are screwing us. And in this one, Bill de Blasio, you got screwed. Because, or whoever it is that justified Amazon getting paid to come. The truth of the matter is, Amazon should pay for coming in, for the disruption that they're going to cause in the real estate market and in other markets when they get in there. But we don't think like that, right? We only think business. I was on a talk show with another man, and the man, we started talking about taxes. And I started to say, well, we probably need to increase our taxes for something. And his first answer was an increase in taxes, how it's going to hurt people. His first thing was, how are your policies going to affect business? The truth of the matter is, the first question we should ask is not how is a policy going to affect business. It should be, how is a policy going to affect human beings? And when I told him that, he said, oh, you're looking at it wrong. Because if business does well, people do well. And my thing is, no. If people do well, business will follow. But we have this mentality in this country where we only think business because we've been taught to think business. We've been taught to think that the only thing that matters in this country is business, business, business. Business is a part of society. That's just life. Business is. But ultimately, the most important thing is persons, humans, the population, people. That is what really matters. And we have to get there and understand what we're talking about. And if we don't, we'll continue where we're at. And right now, we got a good start, right? We got a whole lot of progressives in Congress elected. But it is our responsibility now. All these things that I'm telling you that a lot of this you're not going to hear on TV, because again, they don't go into the depth of how this economy is going to work and how these tax cuts are going to really, how does it physically or how does it materially change things in these neighborhoods. They're not going to spend a whole lot of time. Now, there's one program that tries to do that very well. We have Amy Goodman on that her show plays at KPFT, but also Democracy Now! on the internet. She plays it on the internet as well. They talk a whole lot about issues like this as well. But these are important concepts that we have to go through. Okay, I'm kind of running low, so let me go ahead and start talking about, should Hillary Clinton run again? Look, everybody who watches Politics Done Right knows that I'm a Bernie Sanders supporter. I was always a Bernie Sanders supporter because he's very progressive. He's a democratic socialist, and he believes in the policies that I believe in and the policies that I think are required to put people first. That is my point. However, Bernie Sanders, we can talk about all the shenanigans that happens. I am not. Everybody plays the game, including Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is not a saint or doesn't need to be coddled, that somehow the DNC did this to Bernie and all of that is true. But politicians don't need to be coddled. Everybody knows it's a tough game. And if you're in a tough game, I could tell you things that Bernie Sanders should have done that he didn't do, that he would have likely won the election. And many of us know what those things are. He could have won, but he didn't. So, I mean, just like we said, Hillary Clinton should have beat Donald Trump, but she didn't listen to folks like Michael Moore when he told her Michigan was slipping away, when he told her Pennsylvania was slipping away, when he told her Ohio was slipping away. All those things were known. All that information was being sent to Brooklyn, but these folks out there said, we know what we're doing. Of course they didn't. So I mean, I am done with this Bernie-Hillary fight. I don't care about it. I don't want to talk about it. What I do want to talk about is, should Hillary run again? Look, the people who sent me, and I owe a whole lot of respect to the folks who sent me to I was a Bernie delegate in Philly. And I must say I had a whole lot of support from Hillary supporters, because they knew where my heart was. I was an honest Bernie supporter, but that I wasn't going to burn down the house if he didn't win, but I was going to do the right thing and support the party's candidate. During my support for Bernie, I hit Hillary with the things that she needed to be hit with, and that those are things like some of the comments she made in Wall Street and about the bankers and so forth, and I did that appropriately. But I also made sure to give her the respect she deserved as a very qualified woman, in fact, the most qualified person running in a long time. And I gave that dignity and respect, even in the articles that I wrote at the Daily Kos that were critical in certain areas. And the reason I'm saying this, I'm pre-qualifying this because I don't want anybody to think when I say Hillary shouldn't run to believe it has anything to do with Bernie Sanders or anything like that. The truth of the matter is I don't think Bernie Sanders should run either. I don't think either one of those folk should run. I think I think we need to start cultivating new people to run. I don't think Biden should run. I don't think any of these old folks should run. I think we have very competent young people. And first of all, let me just say, Donald Trump has so lowered the bar for the presidency that anyone who can spell could be president. But that's not what we want. We want somebody competent. And while the Democratic bench does not have a whole lot of well-known folk around the country that everybody knows very well and would have confidence in them, that is what we need to be working on right now. Immediately right now, what we ought to be working on is developing younger people so that we have a vibrant, a strong primary to see who we can, to get them on stage, a lot of folk on stage. I want to see 10 Democrats running for president and have them all go out there and I have them all do their opposition research. They need to be well opposition researched because, the Republicans are going to do it for you. So we want a lot of folks so that we can ultimately pick somebody on the progressive side that really stands for the folk. That person, in my opinion, shouldn't be Biden. It shouldn't be Hillary. It shouldn't be Bernie Sanders, any one of those. It is time for them to be consultants. It is time for them to be given advice. You don't have to be the leader. I'm older statesman now, and I work with a whole lot of groups that have a whole lot of millennials and Gen Xers. I like to call myself an older Gen Xer, but I'm really either a baby boomer or an older Gen Xer. And I tell them straight up, the leadership now is yours. The leadership of these organizations rightfully should be yours. You shouldn't be looking for people like me and other older folk who've been politically active forever. We should be there to give assistance. Like I tell them right now, you have something for me to do, I'm here at your service. You need some advice, I'm here at your service. But it is time to move on. It is time for us to have new people. Hillary Clinton, I think, if she were to run again, will damage the party. Because once and if she says she's running, she will immediately freeze out anybody else of consequence who wants to run. And in my humble opinion, that would be the wrong thing. Now, to my baby boomer women friend, including those who invest in a lot of the things that we do here. Look, there are a lot of qualified women right now, younger women right now, that would make very good would make a very good president. I think what Hillary supporters should do right now is talk to her and ask her to be the wing person for several of these candidates, because I think then I think what you'll blossom out of that is, first of all, her negatives will definitely go down because people will see somebody that is not interested in self. One of her people came on and said she wants to run. She cannot believe she got beat by Donald Trump. Well, you know what? It happens. Number one, life is not fair. And number two, I say this with respect, but a lot of the reason she lost was her own fault. And that is the reason, again, not listening to what folks have been saying all along. And to put it bluntly, I mean, I got torn up on Daily Kos for saying Donald Trump was going to win. And it was, I thought a whole lot of things were obvious, and I thought a whole lot of things that weren't being done were also obvious. But we have to be honest. It is time for younger folk to take the mantle, and those of us who are older to go ahead and provide the assistance that folks may need. That is what we need to do. That is what we really need to do, in my humble opinion. So, Hillary, don't run. Stay engaged. And you know what? Nobody is... I won't... In my writings about Hillary, I never let anybody forget what Hillary was. I never let anybody forget that Hillary, what she did on the border, what she did to help register people to vote on the border and the Latino community, etc. But you know what? All of that eventually is good. You did your part. Now let's move on. Okay, so another issue that I said I wanted to talk about, should we stick with young people? This kind of goes with this as well, right? The Democratic Party is old, and it looks old and dated. I don't see why you see Clyburn, Pelosi, and a couple others that are going back for leadership again. I look there and I see a young, vibrant Ocasio-Cortez, the two new Muslim women that I can't recall their names right now. A lot of young people moving in. The folk, I don't remember their names right now, but a lot of young, vibrant people are moving in right now. Why not elevate some of the older young people, into these positions, create positions of assistance for them, give them advice as to how to fight. Look, nobody is as good a legislator as Nancy Pelosi. I've always given her credit for getting Obamacare passed, for finding the way to get around not having a veto-proof Senate by breaking the bill into two. I mean, she did marvelous things. She is great. She's a hell of a legislator, probably the best ever. But she's 70-something years old. And it is time for her to teach. It is time for her to teach other people what to do. It is time for her to move on. It is time for her to prepare the next generation. We have to stop being selfish. And what we have a whole lot of times is a whole lot of people that are not looking beyond themselves. And I think it is time that we have people looking beyond themselves. Folks, this is a call-in show still. We only have 8 minutes left. It would be great for you to give a call, 646-716-5812. And while somebody decides if they're going to call or not, what I want to do is I always forget to do this, right? Go ahead and give a pitch and say, hey, guys, we need you to support Politics Done Right. So here we go. Folks, please go ahead and support Politics Done Right at patreon.com/Politics Done Right. Again, that is patreon.com/Politics Done Right for those who subscribe. And by the way, subscribing is very, very inexpensive. Very, very inexpensive. Please just go to the link and check it out. See the reason that I'm doing this, the reason why the progressive media is trying to grow itself, the reason why all these things are occurring is because, my dear friends, we must have a way to get a message beyond the shallowness of the mainstream media. We have to spend the time to cultivate, to educate, to enlighten other folks. For those of you who subscribe, you will get access to How to Make America Utopia, which is a book I'm writing. I wrote chapter 1. I'm very behind on chapter 2 because of the election. And, I've been beat down for, the amount of work that's been going on. But I'm back to writing again. I hope to have that second edition out late next week. That chapter out late next week. Please go ahead and subscribe at patreon.com/Politics Done Right. All subscribers to that will get as a chapter is released, they will get access to it. And also, go ahead and join the group How to Make America Utopia. If you join the group, you can go ahead and give us suggestions for the book, things to put in the book. If something that you talk to us about makes it into the book, we will go ahead and cite you with your permission, of course. And since the book is going to be sold all over Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, and everywhere else, you will be a known personality in the book. So please go ahead and subscribe to Politics Done Right and other progressive media. Let me tell you, I don't just talk about this, about having to support progressive media. I don't only do this. I vote with my dollars as well. So I support dailycoast.com. I support opednews.com. I support democraticunderground.com. I support my party, of course, the Democratic Party. I'm a subscriber to the party every month. I am also a subscriber to coffeepartyusa.com, which we appear on that network as well. And several others that I can't remember right now. And these are small dollar figures that you provide that I do. And the reason why is if we are to make a difference, the other side does it, right? I remember I had a Republican woman, a friend of mine, comes on to my show, and she told me she had a bad day in raising money that day. And I said, really? She said, yes, we were trying to raise money for Cruz and all these guys. Say, hey, how'd you do? Well, had a bad day. How much did you raise in a few hours? $5,000. I'm like, $5,000? Man, we would be happy to raise that in a month, And she's like, well, people invest in the things they think worth investing in. People invest in the things they need. People invest. To which I said, I see. Folks, on our side, we don't have the money that they have on their side, but we have the pennies on our side. So may I humbly ask that you support the progressive media like they support their media. And please go to patreon.com, patreon.com/politics done right. We're doing the good work. We're doing what's right. And we have a body of work. Politics Done Right has a body of work to show you that you can see when you go to that link as well. We don't just do this. We do a whole lot to try to move this progressive movement forward. We are one of many that are out there trying to make a difference out there. Many of us have given up businesses, given up careers. I know a whole lot of those block walkers who have done that themselves. They've decided, luckily one of them just got elected to the Congress, and I'm so proud of him. But many of us decided, you know what? We can't just talk about this. We have to do something about it. And what we ask is that people support us in doing that, because in supporting us, you're supporting yourself. In supporting us, you're supporting our policies. And supporting us, you're making life better for everybody else. Folks, so please go to patreon.com/politics done right. Again, that is patreon.com/politics done right. The link is in the Facebook page as well. But if you're listening on Blog Talk Radio, it is patreon.com/politics done right. Patreon.politics done right. Well, I think we are over with the show now. What I'd like to thank you very much for listening. I would have liked to hear a bit more information from you, but that is okay. What we're going to do is tomorrow we'll be in the studio at KPFT 90.1 FM. Sorry guys, I forgot. This is just an oversight on my part to go through the links here. What I'll do though is I'll answer them like I did yesterday when I'm done with the show, and make sure to give everyone. I read them all. Rest assured, unless something happens, I don't read it. And what I try to do to let you know that I read it is I like all of them. And by the way, if you see me like your comment, it doesn't really mean that I necessarily agree with you. It means that I like that you commented. I appreciate that. And that I respect that you commented on our show, which I think is very important. So, I mean, we try to foment discussion here, and we want nobody to feel like they have to hide their feelings or hide what they want to say. My name is Egberto Willies. I ask again that you go to patreon.com, patreon.com/politics done right, and provide support for the program. This is Egberto Willies. My name, this show is Politics Done Right. And you know how I end this show? I am what? Out!
Welcome to Politics Done Right on KPFT. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Give me a call at 713-526-5738. That is 713-526-KPFT. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.
1, 2.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.
1, 2, 3, 4.